There is a kind of tired that is hard to explain. You did not run a marathon. You did not carry heavy boxes all day. You might be lying in bed, staring at the ceiling, doing almost nothing. But inside your head, an emergency meeting is still running. One part of you replays something you said earlier. Another checks the tone of a message. Another builds 3 versions of tomorrow. Another prepares an explanation for a problem nobody has even asked about. From the outside, you look like you are resting. Inside, your brain is working the night shift. And people like this are often not careless. They are observant, sensitive, thoughtful, and very good at connecting tiny pieces of information. They are not exhausted because their mind is empty. They are exhausted because their mind never clocks out. That is the paradox of overthinking. The same ability that can make you careful, reflective, and emotionally aware can also become the thing that drains you. But this video does not begin with, just stop thinking. Because if you have ever truly overthought something, you know how useless that advice can be. The real question is not, why won't you stop? The real question is, why does your brain believe that thinking more will make you safer?
Overthinking has one very clever trick. It feels like problem solving. You are analyzing, you are comparing, you are remembering details, you are guessing what someone meant, you are reviewing every possible angle. That sounds useful. But not every busy mind is moving forward. Sometimes the brain is not solving the problem. It is walking into the same room again, opening the same drawer again, reading the same piece of paper again, and calling it one more analysis. In psychology, part of this pattern is often called rumination, repetitive thinking around distress, its causes, its consequences, and what it might mean. The important point is this: rumination is not the same thing as problem solving. Problem solving creates a next step. Rumination often creates a next loop. You might begin with a reasonable question. Did I say something wrong? But after 10 rounds, that question may no longer help you repair anything. It turns into something darker. Do I always ruin things? That is the moment thinking changes jobs. It is no longer a tool. It becomes a brightly lit cage. And because the brain is active, you mistake activity for progress. But sometimes you are not climbing a staircase. You are running on a mental treadmill with the word progress written on it.
So why would the brain do this? One very human answer is because it is trying to protect you. Imagine an old alarm system inside your mind. At first, it was designed to detect real danger. A strange sound, a shift in someone's face, a colder message than usual, a silence in a conversation. For one brain, that might just be information. But for a brain that has learned to predict danger, uncertainty does not always feel like uncertainty. It feels like threat. And when the brain senses threat, it turns on the alarm. It says, think more. If I understand this better, I can control it. If I predict every possibility, I will not be surprised. If I analyze long enough, I will be safe. This is why overthinking is so convincing. It does not arrive with the voice of an enemy. It arrives with the voice of a protector. It does not say, I am going to exhaust you. It says, let me check one more time. And that is why the loop is hard to leave. A part of you feels like you are preventing a mistake, an embarrassment, a rejection, or a fall that hasn't happened yet. Your brain may not be broken. It may be running an old safety program.
This does not mean every overthinker has a dramatic past. That would be too simple. But for some people, overthinking began as training. If emotions around you were hard to predict, you learned to read the room quickly. If small mistakes led to big reactions, you learned to check before acting. If silence sometimes meant someone was angry, you learned to analyze silence. Your brain did not call that overthinking. It called that survival. A child in an uncertain environment does not think, I am developing rumination. The child thinks, if I can predict what comes next, maybe I can stay safe. The problem is that later, the environment may change, but the alarm system keeps the old rules. A delayed message is not always rejection. A slightly awkward conversation is not always social disaster. An imperfect decision is not always proof that you failed. But the old system sees uncertainty. It rings the alarm. It demands more analysis. Overthinking may have started as radar, but now it sometimes screams at shadows.
This is the part we need to get right. Not all deep thinking is bad. In one large study, reflective pondering, the part of rumination that tries to understand, connect, and make sense of experience, was linked with measures of intelligence. But brooding was not. That difference matters. The part of you that analyzes and reflects may be using a real strength. The problem is not that you have a thinking mind. The problem is that this strength can get trapped in the wrong mode. Reflection asks, what can I learn? Brooding asks, what is wrong with me? Reflection gives you one small next step. Brooding digs the hole deeper. Reflection may hurt a little, but it makes you clearer. Brooding also hurts, but it makes you blurrier. After an awkward conversation, reflection might say, next time I can ask directly instead of guessing. Brooding says, I am weird. They probably noticed. Why do I always make things uncomfortable? Both sound like thinking about yourself, but one brings you back into life. The other pulls you away from it. A good question can open a door. The wrong question, repeated long enough, can become a maze. The biggest problem in overthinking is often not that you lack information. It is that your brain does not know when the information is enough. It keeps saying, one more angle, one more possibility, one more replay, one more clue, and then I will feel calm. But calm does not come, because the brain is not really looking for an answer. It is looking for absolute certainty, and life almost never gives you that. This is where dopamine language often gets exaggerated online. It is not accurate to say that overthinking is a clinical dopamine addiction, but there is a smaller, more honest truth. The brain can become very interested in information, clues, and the feeling that an answer might be one thought away. The trap is not that you are addicted to thinking. The trap is that one more thought always sounds reasonable. And if the brain believes that more understanding means more safety, it will keep asking for more. But some problems do not need 10 more rounds of analysis. They need a decision, a conversation, a boundary, a night of sleep, or one very difficult sentence. I have thought enough to take the next step, and thinking more right now is only keeping me stuck. Overthinking is not always the absence of answers. Sometimes it is the absence of an ending. So, what do you do with a brain that will not be quiet? You do not force it into silence. Because the harder you try to crush a thought, the more you teach the brain that the thought is dangerous. A better move is distance. In acceptance and commitment therapy, this is called cognitive defusion. Learning to see a thought as an event in the mind, not as a command, not as absolute truth. Instead of, everyone probably hates me, you shift to, I am having the thought that everyone might hate me. That sounds small, But that distance matters. The first sentence pulls you into the alarm. The second lets you stand half a step away from the control panel. And sometimes half a step is enough to ask, is this a real signal or is this the old siren? You do not have to defeat the thought by arguing with it all night. You only need to notice, this is my brain trying to protect me in a familiar way. Then ask, is this way still helping? If it is, use it. If it is not, thank it and do not hand it the steering wheel.
Maybe the gentlest thing you can say to an overthinking mind is not stop thinking. Maybe it is, I understand why you learned to do this. It tried to protect you. It tried to predict pain. It tried to read small signs. It tried to prepare for futures that never arrived. But a system that once helped you survive can still exhaust you if it never gets updated. You do not need to hate your brain. You do not need to become shallow. You do not need to lose your ability to think deeply. You only need to learn when the mind is lighting the path and when it is ringing an alarm in a room that is not on fire. The goal is not an empty mind. The goal is a mind that knows how to rest. A mind that can say, I have seen this signal. I have learned what I need to learn. I do not need one more loop to deserve peace. Not turning the brain off, but teaching the old alarm system that not every uncertainty is danger. Not every thought needs to be followed to the end. And not every quiet night has to become an emergency meeting inside your head.